All right. Well, howdy, y'all. Oldguyjammin here with some gardening tips for y'all today. Not because I'm a super expert, but because I have learned a thing or two over the years about gardening, and I've figured out some things that make it really easy and super successful and consistent from year to year to year to year to year. Look at these squash. When we're done with these, they'll be a couple inches bigger, but that is such a beautiful butternut winter squash. That in the store, that's going to be $6 to $7, maybe $8 once they get up to full size. I'm not going to sell mine. I'm going to harvest them, and we've just got some real beauts here. This is a monster. It looks so good. Nice and big. But we will get these harvested, and then another beautiful one. Wow. And we'll give them a real light Clorox wash, and then let them dry good. And then we'll put them in, wrap them in newspaper and put them under beds and keep them. And we'll be making soup and roasting those for a good 6 months before they run out. Anyway, let's talk about beds first. Instead of putting your garden in the ground where you where it's susceptible to gophers and other things, beds are killer, man. Beds are the way to go. We've got a stainless steel screen on the bottom of these that we tacked on. It lasts for a good 3 years anyway. I used to use chicken wire, but the chicken wire rots pretty quick. So stainless steel reinforced screen on the bottom is the way to go. And then amend your soil from year to year to year. And rotate your crops. When you have a garden like this, if you always grow squash here, after a year or two, the ground develops kind of a resistance to growing that vegetable. Funny things happen in the soil, and it's not good. So next year we'll have the squash all the way over there. We'll have the zucchini and the yellow crooknecks in the middle. We'll have the tomatoes over here. And we'll just keep rotating from year to year to year. All right, tomato cages. Do not buy those waste of money cages at the Home Depots and other hardware stores. Go ahead and invest in some concrete reinforcing mesh. Nice 6-inch square. Plenty of room to get your hands in and out. They'll last for decades, and they're strong enough to hold your plant up when it gets 7 feet tall. Those other little cages just will not do the job. After you get your cages in place, it's a good idea to put some T-posts at each end, and then wrap some old television cable, clothesline, phone cable, all that stuff you have lying around with no use for anymore. Wrap it around those cages just so they don't tip over. Because when your tomato plant gets that big, it has a tendency to pull the cage clear over. Use some fruit tape to secure the cable to your cage. Just like this piece of fruit tape here. You can put a little tie around here just to keep everything kind of kosher, stable. Beautiful tomatoes finally coming on. It's great. All right, let's talk about watering. Timers are great. I have mine on it just went off, but you were able to see that for a little second. I've got a little Orbit timer that I have to replace every year, but it's only $9. It's a mechanical timer. It's over there off the big 2-inch line. And it's regulated down to 20 psi, so I don't blow stuff up. Anyway, this is something I came up with. It's really cool. PVC pipe, 1/2 inch. You can drill holes either straight through or at an angle. And then you put your spray tubes up in here, and it allows you to vary your spray angles and distribution of water as you need to for whatever you're growing. So like here for tomatoes, I want the water to come in and hit low down at the base. That's what I would like. This allows me to put this wherever it needs to be. I can adjust this by reinforcing it with a rock below. If I want it to spray out at a different angle or higher like that, I can just place a rock by the tube. If I don't care, I can pull it back like that. It stays, no problem. But this keeps my water right where it should be going. In this situation, I want water from above. So I went with a high riser like this. Now, whether you use a wide pattern, 180-degree pattern, or a 90-degree pattern, totally up to you. Variable like this, doesn't really matter, totally up to you. But these little PVC risers are super because these plants change as they grow. When they initially grow up, there's leaves all over the place, and you want to be able to get your water into and around the roots But as the plant starts to mature, you end up with a lot of leaves on the ends of the vines and not so many leaves in the middle. And so you want to be able to just change your watering so that you don't end up with issues. Here's a pipe that's got a hole drilled straight through, and this one's at an angle. So if I want to, I just unscrew this one, pull the tube out, put it into this hole, and screw it back in, and I'm good to go. Nice. All right. Also, hey, before we go, super important is this little gizmo, a moisture meter. During the months, sometimes when it's a little cooler, watering once a day is enough. But as it gets hotter and hotter, you need to sometimes water twice a day. Got to keep your moisture content up so that your fruit develops, your vegetables develop, and they don't get starved for water. That's crucial. And another reason you need one of these, is because as you amend your soil and you change the composition of, water trapping like clay or dirt compared to amend or the little styrofoam stuff, perlite. As that ratio all changes, your dirt is going to hold on to different amounts of moisture, and this allows you to always just check. You can check at the level. You can see what your water is, what your content is right here at 1 inch. Look, we're nice right in the middle, nice and green. If we go all the way to the bottom, we're still green. If we came out here to the edge of the box, I could see that I'm dry. So super neat little deal, cheap as can be, no batteries required. Moisture meter, way to go. Okay, let's go talk about fertilizer. And one more real quick thing while we're out here. Look at that. In the fall and the winter, when it's time to tear the garden down, there's a couple ways you can get rid of these plants. One, let them go, and then it's kind of time consuming, but you cut them out of those cages. You can hit them with a bit of Roundup, but you don't want that stuff anywhere out here. But I've also seen, because the Roundup makes them shrivel and get real brittle and makes them pulling out of the cages very easy. I've also seen people hit them with spray them with a little diesel and then spark them, and they burn right off the cages. But with a pair of pruners, it's not too bad. Just cut out the big pieces, cut them up, and pull the pieces out. Anyway, the other thing, during the winter, get yourself a trench going through some of these garden boxes, and then as you are composting, getting rid of your fruit and vegetable waste, you fill it in the trenches, and then you continue the trench. You dig a shovel full of trench dirt, throw it over the compost that's in the previous shovel hole you dug, and you keep that process going all the way down your garden boxes. And then also top them off with some hay once you get towards spring. Later, as you complete a box and you have it full of compost, then cover it up with hay, and that one's done. Repeat that process for this box, that box, any other boxes you might have. You have a great garden. Fertilizer is a big deal. I don't know if you like synthetic fertilizer or natural fertilizer. I like synthetic because you can water it up and wash it right in. I've tried both organic and natural fertilizers like goat manure or stuff you buy in a bag, and it's just so messy and stinky. You got to work it into the soil, and it has a really hard time getting down deep. So it works and it's great, and kudos to you if you like that. But me, I'm a synthetic guy. I know it's got an aftertaste and it's made by man, but I like it. And so let's talk about this. This is a water soluble. It's 30-10-10. It's just like Miracle-Gro. This brand happens to be what they stock over at my fruit house, Growers Association, but it's 30-10-10, which is the ratio of phosphorus and nitrogen and things like that. The Miracle-Gro is 24-8-16 or 28-8-16, 24-8-16. So really close enough, same kind of stuff. You can mix it the same way you do Miracle-Gro. One key thing you want to do is make sure you water up the plants before you feed them. Otherwise, when you're feeding them, a lot of that water is going to run off because it's more than when you are using the drip. So water them first and then come out with your waterer and water them up. Now, a tip on this. This is kind of designed to be used with a high pressure hose. So the little hole in here that feeds this system pushes water in, so water is forced back out. Right up in there, there's this little tiny hole. The bigger hole is where the water comes back out, but that little tiny hole is the injection hole for new water. Or actually, that's what is the big hole, is for water going in. And it pushes the soluble fertilizer out through that little tiny hole, through the trigger and out. But when you're hooked up to a low pressure system, like I am over there at 20 psi, the stream of water coming out of this is only about 3 feet, maybe 4 feet at the most, but it's pretty low pressure. So I'm not getting enough water in and out to make it worth my while. Really frustrating. So what you do is you take a 16th inch drill bit and you drill this hole out just a little more, and then you're going to have plenty of water and food mixing, and you'll be able to utilize this on a low pressure system. Super key, so that you're not frustrated shaking it so the water turns blue, because the water should always have a really mild tint of blue as it comes out of this. All right, so these work great, but you do have to mod it up a little bit. Now, another thing that's good to have around is Fungimax. Super cheap, available anywhere. 1 ounce per gallon. Hit any of your plants, whether it's greenery around your house or in the garden. Anytime you start to see some fungus, just nail it with this in a regular little spray bottle. Works killer. Use it all the time. And then if you get aphids in your squash plants, like your zucchini and little crooknets, you're bound to get aphids. So to combat those, I usually mix up about a tablespoon of Dawn in a spray bottle worth of water. Nice big spray bottle worth of water. Shake it up, go out there and spray all those aphids. The soap traps them, they die. Then the next day I get a hose and I spray it all off. Makes your plants super healthy. That's one issue you have with squash plants. The other one is that white powdery fungus that sets in later in the summer, about now, unless you've sprayed them down with a little bit of this. Little goes a long way. This isn't the case where if a little's good, a lot, more is better. If you use too much of this, you'll kill the plant. But I really like Miracle Grow because it's guaranteed, if used as directed, it's mild enough and guaranteed not to burn, which you can get with granule fertilizer and even manure. If it's too hot, you put manure on your plants, you'll burn them up if they're not really established. Also, buying this at a fruit house is about a third of the price you're going to pay for Roundup for Miracle Grow. Yeah, you don't want Roundup on your plants. That's bad. Bad. All right, so happy gardening and kill it. All right, having a pretty yard and or a garden does take a bit of time, but it's so rewarding, especially when you do the work yourself. Nothing better than spending a Sunday or Saturday out here working on my stuff. Just love it. Anyway, it does help, though, to have some tips, things to do and things not to do, some tips and tricks to make it a little easier. And that's what I hope to have provided for you today. So if you found this helpful by any means, share it up, sub if you like, and we'll see you next time.